SDET at Freshworks. So like I have around 10 years of experience, and like I am an alumni of ThoughtWorks. So like I was working with ThoughtWorks for 4.5 years from 2019 to 2023 mid actually. So yeah. So today like I wanted to share some learnings. So currently like we are working with AI in bots. So I'm working as a QA in AI in bots domain. So like I wanted to share some of the learnings which we tried which we implemented in our strategies and testing the AI in bots. So actually so this was a very long presentation. So but like I cut shorted it to having only unit testing strategy. But this covers both unit and accuracy as per plan. But now like I wanted to share only the unit testing strategy so that like I can present once again in some other forum with the accuracies. Yeah. So quickly I'll just jump into the agenda. So like I think most of you would be aware of AI LLMs. So just we are going to see some basics about like what are the types of LLM and how can you unit test and how can you shift left implement shift left strategy in your LLM testing. Yeah. So this is a general introduction like what most of you know. So if you know something apart from that, can you please share? So any idea about like LLMs and how it works?
It's just a model that predicts the next word.
Okay. So anything else? It's a model that just predicts the next word. Anything else? Okay. So it's not only the model that predicts the next word or next content, but it also like provides a vast data. So like whatever you are going to train your model, right? Like it always provides some content or provides some responses based upon your trained data. So trained data in the sense like it can be anything. So it can be your files, URLs. So it can be your Q&As, solution articles. So mostly like AI and chatbots, right? Like currently in the market trends, like we will be using mostly with the uh, like the support engineers and then like some of the AI bots would be implemented in e-commerce site. So for everything, right, like the major thing for and model is nothing but so it should be trained with vast amount of data. Either it can be a manual training or it can be URL crawling. So based upon some URL you are hosting it and then you are getting some content. So it can be your files, like data files, whatever you have uploaded, and whatever Q&As and solution articles. So, okay. So one of the major challenge in unit testing, right? So comparatively with web and AI. So like, can you let me know like what are the major challenge comparatively we have while unit testing a web application and an AI application? Any thoughts?
We can expect the exact output or something, but in LLM, it's not. The prediction is not possible. There will be a lot of deviation than the expected.
Okay, so that is one of the thing. So prediction, right? Like it would be either deterministic or undeterministic. So that is one unique challenge we have comparatively. Like when you are going to work with either as a QA or dev, right? Like when you are going to work with LLMs or AI, right? So this is one major complexity you will be facing. So you don't have some deterministic values coming out. So each and every time, even though if you train your data, so it may give the same answer, it may not give the same answer. So the response, whatever it gives, right, it varies actually. So based upon the input queries we are giving, so based upon the instructions you are going to train the model, right? So based upon that, like the query may differ. So and also like another one thing is like as a QS, right? Like we should always ensure the quality and correctness of the model. That means so the model should be responding properly whatever I'm asking. So if I'm asking, for example, what is the capital of Paris, France? So it should give the exact answer actually. The content can differ. So sometimes it may say the capital of France is Paris. Sometimes it may say France capital is Paris. So the content may differ, but we need to have the exact data. So that and all, like I can show you like how the content varies. How can you adjust your content? So those things and all we can see here. Any questions? Any thoughts? So like maybe you might have learned something, so I might have missed out something. So anything like you wanted to share?
So in terms of speed of executing tests, right? So normal unit tests are fast. How about unit test for LLMs in terms of speed difference?
So speed difference would be the same actually. So mostly like we would be mocking like the model's response service or the client. So there are multiple ways. So either we can mock or we have an open source tool called LM Studio. So you can get a model or load your own model, and then you can get that API endpoints and use it as a unit testing there. So it would be more a kind of an API only. So unit testing model. So like whatever we tried out it was mostly a kind of API testing only. So we can also do UI testing, like you can mock and do the UI, but the predictability it would not match actually. So mostly like unit testing, like here we will be covering it would be a part of a API testing only. So APIs, we'll be using the APIs and then we'll be unit testing each and every model layers actually. Okay, so this is a general thing. So like what are the types of LLMs that we have currently in the market? So I think like most of you might have heard about GPT-4, GPT-4o, Mini, BERT, DALI, RAG. So these are some of the available LLMs. So in this, right, like today I wanted to share about like how can you plan your unit testing strategy for a GPT model. Yeah, so these are the basic unit tests. I think like most of you would be developers, so you would be aware of like what are the basic unit testing components we wanted to share. So apart from that, like what and all difference we need to have in LLMs. So one is input validations. So the first and foremost is the input for your model. So you should always try to give a valid input. So even though if you're going to try it out a negative scenario, right? For that also your input should be valid. So let's say like you have a model which is trained on providing some stock market data. So here if you wanted to start unit testing your layers, so instead of providing stock market data and if you are going to give some other data, right? So your model should always try to handle those things. So either it should provide a fallback or either it should go for some other navigations, like mostly it would go for fallbacks. So here in input validation, so you need to validate about the valid input so for your model, and also like you need to see whether your model responds correctly for your input. Either it can be a proper response or it can be a fallback there. So next is the output format. So yeah, so this is also one of the major things. So like, let's say like you have trained your model to always respond in bulleted points with paragraphs. So you should always try to validate your output format as well. So you have trained your model with paragraphs, but it is providing in JSON, right? So it is not used. So you need to cover both the cases. So you need to cover, it should give in paragraph, and also like what happens if it provides in JSON format. So next one is the major thing. So response quality validation. So it is nothing but like how relevant your answers are getting triggered. So let's say like you have a model and you have uploaded a file for, you have trained the model to, let's take the stock market itself. You have taken a stock market, trained your model for stock market, and you are asking some question about like what is the current share value of Freshworks. So here, so it should provide the exact value for that particular question. It should train and give you the value. And also like mostly like we would be seeing about correctness, relevancy and accuracy. Correctness is whether your model is giving you a correct answers. Relevance, let's say like you have trained something in some query, but you have given it in a different way. So in that case, right, you should always go for relevancy. So how relevant your model is providing you the answers. And accuracy is nothing but, so how accurate like your model is responding. Like let's say like you have tried your model to answer the same question for 10 times and it gave the correct answer for 8 times, right? Then your accuracy would be like 80%. So that means your model is giving you 80%. And also like accuracy can be validated not only with unit testing. So you can also take over from the end to end also. So you can prepare your own data set and you can try hitting the model and see how fast it is responding. And let's say like you are giving some 10 to 20 queries and your model is responding for 15 queries correctly and 5 queries wrongly, right? So from there you can try to calculate your accuracy as well. And then like, so, okay, so this unit testing, right? So you can try out with deep eval. So deep eval is one of the tool which provides you doing unit testing. And also like if you want, right, you can explore on your own. So you can use TypeScript and Playwright to write unit tests. You can use TypeScript and Jest to write unit test cases for your models. So maybe I can show you a quick glimpse of like what I have tried it out, but it was not fully completed. Maybe I can show you the folder structure. So next one is, as usual, like we need to validate the performance and latency. So like how fast your model is responding to your queries. So let's say like you are giving a query. So if your model is responding more than 1 minute, right, then it is not, your model's performance is not good. So that is one basic NFR coverage we need to follow. So next would be the behavioral and boundary validation. So this would be different. So like how can you handle the edge cases and outliers of the model? So let's say like you have a model and you are going to ask something related to some secured content, how your model is going to perform. Either it should give, let's say, okay, so let's say like you have a model, you have a widget. So from there, like you are going to give a HTML script tag. So if you give an HTML script tag, how your model should behave? Either it should not accept that kind of input, or either it should not provide some of your HTML inputs or script tags which you have tried out in your model or tried out in your web page. So that is what like boundary validation in behavioral cases. And response consistency, like whatever I said, right? So for similar identical inputs, like if you're trying to generate the same questions, right? So how it responds and how many times it gives the correct answer and relevant answer. So there is a difference. So if you go with response consistency, so if you ask the same question 10 times, right? So it may give the same answer 10 times, or it may not give the same answer 10 times. So there would be some difference. So this also like you can cover it in your unit testing. And then like as usual, like most of you would be aware, like marking the external dependencies. Let's say like if your model is if you are trying to fetch some value from DB and push it, trying to get it from your model, right? So that you can mark. And bias and fairness testing is one of the basic coverage for unit testing of the models. Because like if you are going to ask some emotional kind of questions to the model, right? So it should always, either it should give you a neutral answer or a fair answer. So that should be fair. So if you are going to ask some angry questions, right, it should not respond you back in an angry manner. So that is what like we mostly try to see in our bias and fairness validation. So any doubts or any thoughts like you wanted to add it upon for the unit testing of a model? Okay, shall we move on to the next? Yeah.
Sir, before we are starting our unit testing, right? See, we are going to learn something out of the models, right? So in a normal case, we know we are expecting some output and we'll validate it against that, right? For LLMs, how we will decide, okay, these are the set of inputs I have to validate, right? Only if I know this is the output,
Okay,
then
yeah.
I can start working on it, right?
Yeah.
So as a developer, sorry, as a QA, when you are starting your say initial exploration on okay, this is my LLM model and these are the things I'm going to validate. What are the type of inputs you will assume so that you can start writing your unit test cases?
Okay. So for this, right, like actually like we would say it as a golden data set actually. So golden data set is nothing but the combination of inputs which we try to do. So it can be anything. So it can be from your product requirements. So you can create your own test cases. Or let's say like if you have some customers, so they might have tried out some scenarios, some conversations they might have tried out. So we need to take it from that. So mostly like we will be preparing the golden data set from the customer database only. So we will take the queries, whatever we require. We'll fine tune that, like we'll change that queries and fine tune it. And then we'll keep it as a golden data set for running accuracies actually. So unit testing, so we are not handling any models actually. So we are using the existing models only. So for unit testing also, like we can do the same. So you can prepare your own data. So either it can be from your production database or customer queries, or it can be your own set of data. So like what I initially said, right? So it can be either deterministic or non-deterministic based upon our input validations only, whatever input we are providing. So mostly like if you are going to have, so let's say like you have a GPT model, so which accepts files for learning. So in that case, right, like we know that file contents, right? So then we need to prepare from that file content actually. So different set of queries. Let's say like you are going to upload some brochure. So we are the person who is going to upload, right, that client, right? He should be he will be aware of the browser contents. So from that, right, like we as a QS, right, like we'll be having the sample brochures and we'll be preparing the data sets. So it's about like how we are going to prepare the data sets. Either it can be from your production, or you can get it directly from your client conversations, or you can prepare your own. Three ways we can do. So mostly for accuracy, for doing accuracy testing, right, like we will do all the things. So I prepare my own data set, I prepare my own files and run the accuracy. So then I'll get some client data, client queries, same upload the same thing and see how it works in my lower environments, pre-prod environments or UAT environments, how the accuracy is going on. So that's how like we'll prepare the data set.
Thank you.
Okay, any other queries? Validations has to be again updated, right? Yeah. So I will come to that part. So I have one diagram. So it's not about like, let's say like if you are having a unit testing for web app. So we will be writing the coverage and every time the coverage will be executed until unless I change something, right? Then only will you improve the coverage for that particular changes. But here it's not like that. So for each and every run, even though if it is getting passed or failed, we need to always improve our data set actually. So because like we as a customer, right, like I am a customer, I can give whatever query I want. So I can give in 2 words, 3 words, 4 words, 5 words, I can give in a paragraph. So it should be a combination of everything where we need to always try to replicate, or like we need to fine tune our unit test cases data regularly. Yeah. So any other questions? Okay, so let me move on to the next slide. Okay, I think like many of you would be aware about the GPT. So like I think this is a basic thing like nowadays, like most of you would be aware. So just I have drilled down what are the components of GPT and how we are going to follow unit testing strategy for some of the components. So it has 2 layers, so this is the architecture. So actually that is a GPT generated image, because like I tried to take the architecture, it was very confusing. So I generated an image with GPT. So this is one architecture. So we have in the whole architecture, right, like it is divided into 2 parts. So one is the transformer layer and one is the model and training layer. So in the transformer layer, right, like we have encoder, decoder, self-attention, fast forward networks, and positional. So it's nothing but like encoder, decoder is nothing but like how your tokens are getting processed sequentially. And then self-attention mechanism is nothing but like it will always look for different parts of your input. Let's say like what is the capital of France and question mark, right? Like it will always self-attention mechanism will go and look for the different parts. If you are using any special characters in between, so everything it will log. And fast forward network is nothing but the processing of tokens. So your model might support around 2000 tokens. Tokens is nothing but the number of character counts. And then positional encoding is nothing but like where your token should be positioned. Like, so whether when the model is going to respond, right? So it should be in the correct way. So let's say like, what is the capital of France? Either it can be Paris is the capital of France, or capital of France is Paris. So these things will be followed with positional encoding. And next one would be the next layer would be the model and pre-training. So it's nothing but like how you are going to train your model, that which I was telling, right? So how you are going to train your model, and then fine tuning. So let's say like if you are having summarization, article summarization feature, so you are uploading an article. So you wanted to summarize the contents of the article. So how you will be fine tuning the model. So this is the basic components of GPT. So from here, like I will take you like how can you go and write your unit testing. Okay, so like I have segregated the components and what is their goal, how would be the unit test case, and what is the sample test case and its explanation. So first would be the self-attention mechanism. So it's nothing but like what I said, right? So it determines the words in the sentence, the importance of words in the sentence actually. Whatever you give, right? Either it can be a paragraph or it can be a single word or 2 words or 3 words. So here, for unit testing, so you need to use a simple sentence, and also you need to give important words with more focus. So for example, here, right, like in the sample test case, right? So I love pizza. So it always pays attention more to love and pizza than I. So because it always tries to predict what is the weightage of your question or input you are going to ask. Because here, I is something lower priority for GPT, but love and pizza. So based upon that, your content will be created. So let's say like you are going to ask like a same question. Let's take what is the capital of India. So here it would give more weightage for capital and India. So what is off would be in the lesser weightage because you don't want it to listen to the words. So it just analyzes what type of question we are going to ask. So that is what I have given in the explanation. So yeah, so any doubts in the first component? Because we are running out of time, we can quickly. Okay, so next would be the feed forward network. So yeah, so it is nothing but like how the values are applied correctly. So some mathematical calculations or algorithms that would be present in the feed forward network. So here, if you wanted to do some unit testing, so you should always try to have some numerical values validations here. So that is what like I have given. So this is one example. There can be multiple examples. So here, if you go right, so if you are given 2 and 3, and your weightage for that particular input is 0.5 to 1, so it will be computing it correctly actually. So that is what like feed forward network will give. That is what I have given. Ensures that model processes and transform the data before making predictions. So based upon that particular input and weightage, so it will predict you the answer. So next one is the positional encoding. So positional, as I have already said, right, like order of the words, how it is going to give. So that is what like I have given. So here you can try out with short sentence, long sentence, a paragraph and all. So like that is what a sample test case I have given. And then so if I am asking some question, so it should give you in a correct grammar, tenses, and correct emotions, everything. So that will be covered in position and encoding. So next would be the pre-training. So it is always like once you have developed your model, you want to train some data. So that is what like I have given. So you can prepare your sample data based upon your customer requirement or product requirement, and you can create your own test data. And then like you can try to validate how your model goes. And you can predict your error cases as well. So if your error rate or relevancy rate is getting low, right? Then you can again fine tune your model. And the last one is the fine tuning. So which is nothing but like if you are giving multiple questions or if you are giving the same similar inputs multiple times, right? So how your model responds and how it is going to take. So this is what general unit testing strategy for the components of GPT. So similarly, like if you are developing your own model, right? So you can also drill down your architecture layers into like this. And it should be like unit testing for each component, like how we do for normal web app, right? So like mostly we will be doing a TDD. So I will write a failing test case. Again, I'll improve my test case, update the code. Again, run, improve it. So similar thing only. But here it mostly plays with the data. So we don't have nothing to do with code. So in normal unit testing, like if you take, right, like we'll be mostly writing, the code coverage will be increased. But here it's mostly with the data. So this is one advantage with unit testing your model where you learn to improve your data very much so that like you have vast knowledge of how the customer responds. So what are the customer queries they may expect from our bot? Yeah. So this is one simple thing. So how can you shift left your unit testing? So I think most of you would be aware. Same what we do for the web app unit testing strategy. So like you can perform your model requirements in the earlier stage. Go with TDD. So TDD is nothing but test-driven development. So where like you will fail a test case, fix your code, update the test case, again fix your code. So this kind of thing. So and then pre-trained testing. So this is what like I have already shared it in the first slide, right? So bias in data, balanced distribution. So balanced distribution is nothing but so like your data set should cover all kind of validations. So it should not be like what is. It can be an informal query, it can be a formal query, it can be a multilingual query, it can be an emotional query. So whatever that is there, right? Like that should be balanced. So that if you give multiple queries, right, then only like your model will be trained actually. So and then label correctness is nothing but your ground truth annotation should be correct. And synthetic data testing is nothing but so like actually you asked, right, like about the data set. So that is what synthetic data testing. So we'll be testing the model with the small data, and then we will evaluate the performance and see how your model learns quickly. So with the very minimum data, we'll be testing. So most a kind of like we'll say, right, in contra testing, we'll say, right, like we'll be validating the minimum response. Similar thing, like we'll have a minimum data set and we'll be validating. So that is what synthetics data testing. So continuous validation is nothing but like you should always catch your model's relevancy and accuracy and see whether it is dipping down or not. So that is what like continuous validation. And then like continuous integration is nothing but like you can run your automation tests in your pipelines to make sure like whatever your data you are changing, right, like it is getting reflected. And then metrics tracking like accuracy and all. And then incremental checkpoints testing. So it is nothing but like you should be having some goals to ensure your model's performance. So that is what incremental checkpoints. And factual correctness is nothing but like what we said, right? So whatever question I'm asking, so it should give you some answers. And generalization is nothing but like, if you are going to give some unseen or unforeseen queries to your model and see how it is going to train and get how your model is getting trained for the data. Error handling, like let's say like you are going to provide a HTML script or HTML file content into your model. So how it provides, how it responds. So either it should be handled or it should not allow to give you the inputs. And next is the drift detection. So drift detection is nothing but the performance or like performance dipping, or like if you make any change to your model, right? Like if you are going to fine tune your model with some data and you're just going to check whether your existing data set and current data set have both the combination is working fine. So your performance is not going to dip beyond that. So, and then like as usual, we have the normal dev parts. So which is nothing but static analysis, security testing. Yeah. So here one more thing. So what is nothing but, so you wanted to validate your model's temperature. So temperature is nothing but the value ranges from 0 to 1. So you can adjust it, like how relevant the answers, right? So like let's say like if you're asking one query, like what is the capital of France? So it should give capital of France is Paris, and then it should not give some extra contents. So maybe I can show you. So sometimes if you adjust your temperature, right? So sometimes it will give you a flag there. So it will give you the France flag. So that is what the temperature. And maximum token length is nothing but like how many words it can show, it can contain. And then like security testing, like as usual, like we are aware, right? So your model should not leak any of your sensitive data within your outside your organization. Then feedback loop. And then in human feedback loop is also the same thing. Prompt adjustments, which we have already seen that. So like while development stage itself, like you can adjust your prompts. So either you can give your prompt instructions, you can instruct your prompt to give particular data, so particular response in a particular way. So yeah, so that's it I have. So maybe like any queries before jumping onto the QA code, unit testing code?
Set up input validations, right? What happens if I give the input, the question is something like improper questions or in case of false questions, what happens at that time? How does unit testing can do it?
Yeah.
For example, if I say like, who is the first chief minister of ThoughtWorks? If I ask like that, if I ask the question like that, so what happens? How can we define some unit testing for these kind of questions?
Yeah. So mostly like for unforeseen questions, right? Like we should always try to have a fallback. So either your model will be fetching your data from some of your data set, like data files, like either it can be a file or URL. If in that case, if the content whenever it does not find any relevant content, right? So in that case, like you should always validate for a fallback. So the fallback can be a generalized message, like I am not trained to answer for this question. So after that, right, like if you feel that question is a valid, then you need to go and train your model for that. So more a kind of TDT. You will be asking a false question. So that might be a relevant question to you, but your model is not trained. You will be going and training that data for that in the model. And then again, you will come back and you will be updating your unit test. Like it should not give a fallback. Either it should give a answer, proper response. So similar kind of TDD only. So yeah. So maybe like just a minute. Okay. You can able to see this, right? So this is what I told, right? Yeah. So how you are going to evaluate? So you will be having your input, expected output, and context. So what should be your model context? Your LLM evaluation will happen based upon the metrics and threshold. So whatever the metrics you have, like there will be multiple metrics like for unit testing and also for accuracy. So and then you will be maintaining a threshold, like it should be 95%, or it should be 95 percentile, or 1, 0, 7, true, false, whatever you can configure. So even though if it is getting passed or fail, then you need to always improve your edge case. You should look for edge cases and improve your data set. So that is what the major evaluating a model in unit test as well as in your accuracy plays there. So you should always try to improve your data set so that like you will get always the accurate results. So maybe like I'll quickly show you a framework. So I think it's visible, right? Yeah. So this is one model, unit testing framework, a basic framework for a starter. So yeah, so I have told, right, like I have used LM Studio, so which is an open source software, which contains most of the models actually. So this is what it looks like. You can start and stop your server, and you can use this particular curl commands in your Postman and try answering your questions. So those kind of things. So yeah. So like I have used Llama 3.2. So and here the role is user. So because like it should respond me a kind of a system or user, whatever you can give. So temperature, maximum token, and stream. Stream is nothing but it will give you in a byte format. Each and every byte it is sending, right? For each and every word, it will tokenize, right? So it will give you the response. So I have given it as false. So next one is your controller. So similar like how we write for a backend unit testing status, same thing. So I'll be having a client, for my API, I'll be having a controller to handle that. And then I'll be having the services to generate my response. And then I'll be having my test cases here. So I think this is the one. Yeah. So I'll just show you the sample output as well, because like I failed the test case. So you'll be having a sample output here. So you can attach it with your Allure results and you can validate your unit testing report. And also you can also have your code coverage also. So I haven't added the coverage here, but since it was a very basic test, right? Like it shows 100% for all the branch and other testing. So, but like as usual, like how as a developer we write unit test cases, right? So that would be feasible here. And also like you can use this LM Studio. So let me start this, copy this curl, and then I'll just, okay, I think I already have. So, so this LM Studio, right? Like actually TypeScript is providing a wrapper for it. So you can stop your packages. You can start your own model. So everything will be there actually. So I can show here actually. Yeah. So this is the command to load your own model and then start that particular server. And then you can run your tests. And then after running a test, you can stop your server and unload your model. And then you can report, and then you can generate your Allure results. So this is how you can create your own framework. So yeah, so here if you see as an assistant, as a user, I'm asking what is the capital of France. But if you see here, as an assistant, it is responding me, the capital of France is Paris. So let's say like I'll just make it as 0.2. So the temperature is nothing but like how relevant the answer is getting tuned. But I think this is a normal query, so it is not, you could not able to see much difference. Okay, it is always giving the same answer actually, but sometimes, right, like it will give you a flag here. Sometimes it will give some bold formatting. Sometimes it gives you some smileys. So those and all can be controlled from your temperature. So this is one basic thing. So like if you see here, like you can see the implementation. If you are going to create your own models, right? Like maybe you can use LM Studio to load your upload your model, deploy it in your LM Studio, and then like you can, since if you run it in your local, right, it would be heavyweight. So that's what LM Studio is providing. So you can do that. So more a kind of API kind of testing. So I'll be having my API for the chat completions. I'll be providing a response, and then like I can do my unit testing here. So actually, like I did for GPT. So this is what I have did for GPT actually. So yeah, so I have mocked the GPT response and using the just mock function, so that like it will stub and mock the response for you. So once after stubbing and responding, right, like it will clear the marks for the next test. So this is what like mock testing for GPT looks like. That is what I have done here actually. So just a simple thing, like if my method is generate text, so what would be the response? So this is what like, this is how like normally like we do for our backend unit testing also, right? So similar kind of thing. The only thing is how we handle the data and how we are going to predict, or what metrics we are going to predict it from the data. So that's it from my side. So any questions? Okay, thank you so much.